We're about to dissect three incredibly scary and very true stories. But we're not here just for the horror. Nope, we're looking for the information hidden inside. We're going to find the patterns, the warning signs, basically the anatomy of a threat. So, let's get right into it.
Seriously, think about it. You know that weird feeling you get in your gut when something just feels off? That little voice in the back of your head that says, hey, maybe be careful here. A lot of us just brush it off, right? Call it paranoia. But what if that's actually our most important survival instinct trying to tell us something? That's what we're going to unpack today.
So we're going to treat these stories like case studies. Each one is a pretty powerful lesson in how to spot danger, from these really subtle hints to the most obvious threats. By breaking them down, hopefully we can all learn to trust that internal alarm system a little bit more.
Okay, so our first case starts in a place that's probably familiar to a lot of us, a motel. But this one comes with a seriously unsettling twist. It's about a totally routine work trip that turns into, well, anything but.
So you've got this guy, he's a professional, just there to do his job. But he's an outsider in this tiny, remote town, and he's staying alone in this kind of rundown, single-story motel. You know the type, where all the doors face the parking lot. The really important thing here is that he's completely isolated before anything even happens.
Now here's the first warning sign, and it doesn't come from some creepy guy in the shadows. It comes from the motel clerk, and she says this to him so casually, like she's just telling him where the ice machine is. It's this huge, flashing red flag, but it's delivered like it's just another Tuesday.
And this is where you can see how methodical this whole thing is. This isn't random. It's a test. First, they just walk up to the door and stop to see if he'll react. Then a knock to see if he's the kind of guy who'll just open up. And then they're literally checking the lock. By the second night, they've gone from just testing his defenses to actively breaking into the empty room right next door.
So once the police finally get involved, the real picture starts to come together. This was no accident. The pry marks on his truck, that same green pickup being spotted before, the fact that they always targeted guys working alone, it all points to an organized group. And the note they found under his bed? I mean, that proves he was specifically targeted, watched, and chosen way before that first knock ever came.
And this might be the most chilling sentence in the entire story. And it comes from the motel clerk again. Think about what that implies. It suggests this kind of thing happens all the time. It's not a question of if it happens. It's a known pattern of how it happens. It basically confirms this place is a hunting ground. Let's move on and see how these patterns connect.
All right, case 2 kicks off in a very modern place, a dating app. But it shows just how fast digital threats can explode into terrifying, real-world violence. It happens in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, there is nothing subtle about this warning sign. The threat from this guy on Tinder, Killian, is immediate. It's possessive, it's violent, and get this, they hadn't even started dating yet. This isn't some relationship that went bad. This is a declaration of ownership and a death threat right from the jump.
And this is the terrifying leap, isn't it? The danger doesn't just stay on the screen. It becomes real. After weeks of this online obsession and these threats, Killian crosses that boundary from just words and pixels to a physical attack, ambushing the victim right near her own home.
The details of what he did are just awful. He somehow found her address without her ever giving it to him, which proves this was stalking. He laid in wait for her. And maybe the most chilling part, the only reason he stopped choking her was because he had to catch a bus. It wasn't about regret, it was just logistics. The police took it so seriously they gave her a tracking device because they were certain he was going to come back and finish the job.
So, our final case takes us out into the wilderness, a place people usually go for peace, right? For solitude. But in this story, that isolation becomes the main weapon of psychological terror.
And just like our first case, the setup here is everything. The main character, Mike, he wants to be alone. He's intentionally seeking out solitude. And it's that very thing, his desire to be isolated, that makes him so vulnerable to what's about to happen.
The warning this time is so ambiguous. It's almost folksy. Some local guy at a diner says this to him. And, it could mean absolutely nothing. But looking back, it's one of the most ominous things he could have heard. What happens next is just pure psychological warfare. It starts with a direct question, just to confirm he's isolated. You alone? Then, for hours, this methodical torment. The footsteps circling his tent, stopping, then starting again. And then, the sound of someone breathing,
a slow exhale, just inches from his head, on the other side of that thin tent fabric. Finally, at dawn, he hears not one, but multiple sets of footsteps running away. He was surrounded.
And this is the part that is just so bizarre. He goes back to get his gear, and it's not just messed up or stolen, it's gone, wiped clean. The only thing left was the ashes from his fire. It's like someone didn't just want to scare him, they wanted to completely erase any sign he was ever there. The motive? We have no idea. And that is terrifying.
So, after hearing these three completely different, but also weirdly similar stories, what do we take away from it all? What's the common thread that ties a motel, a dating app, and the deep woods together? Let's break it down.
When you lay all three cases out side by side like this, the shared DNA just jumps right out at you. In every single one of these stories, there's an initial warning sign. Some are quiet, some are screaming in your face. And in every single case, that warning is followed by a clear, dangerous escalation of the threat. The pattern is just undeniable.
So, when you boil it all down, what you're left with is this kind of four-step playbook. First, isolate the target, whether that's physically in a motel room or emotionally online. Second, test their defenses with little probes. Third, methodically escalate the pressure. And finally, move in to overwhelm them. Understanding this pattern is probably the biggest lesson we can learn from all this.
What these stories really teach us is that the weird comment from a stranger, that unsettling text message, that feeling like you're being watched, it's not just you being paranoid. It's data. It's step one in a very real pattern. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. After seeing these patterns laid out so clearly, what's that one instinct, that little red flag that you're never, ever going to ignore again?